Hi fellow traders, I hope everybody had a good day today. As usual, we had a pretty good morning. A little bit of some activity this morning, and then after about 11, things just kind of died. And we were quiet pretty much most of the day. And then around 3 o'clock, we found some volatility in the market. We had some stocks that were moving. And then we had pretty active after hours earnings, but you know, I'm pretty optimistic now. I felt kind of bad today because AAOI, we'll look at that in a minute. You know, I kind of showed you yesterday how it's making that one move and then it just kind of trades sideways the rest of the day. It just kind of fell out of its kilter. So I've kind of fallen out of love with it. It's just not doing what I want it to do. I'm still doing well in the swing trade, but you know, as far as day trading it, I figured if it traded like last week, I could really rack up day trading it and just focusing on that stock. But this week it just didn't materialize. But what we're gonna do is go over my trades from today. It's only a couple of them, and then we'll segue right into the how to really grow a small trading account. We did the first segment today in chat, and as I promised, I will share the recording with you. And you know, it's something that you really need to watch from beginning to end. It's not what you want to hear. I can tell you that up front. It's probably not what you want to hear, but you know, I'm not selling anything, so I'm not going to tell you a whole lot of, just pump you up with a whole lot of stuff, because this isn't an advertisement for my community or my classes. This is telling you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So after the I do the trade recap, we're just going to segue right into that. So we'll do this real quick. X, well, just to start by saying, I didn't have power this morning. It went out about 7:20, and you know, I come on about 7:30, and I'm sharing my scans to the room to those who are early that want to possibly trade pre-market and really get into their day started early. I do that, and it kind of stopped me in my tracks. So luckily I stay about 5 minutes away from a truck stop, and I had to go there and, you know, have to pay for internet. You know, they have a Dunkin' Donuts and a Taco Bell there. So I just set up shop along the wall there in the Dunkin' Donut part, and you know, it's only $6 for the day, so I paid for the internet, and it turned out to be better than I expected, because I wasn't going to trade, because using that internet's always sketchy, but this was actually pretty good, so I didn't feel bad about taking trades. So I went through and gave everybody my watch list, and I said X was my favorite. It was my favorite setup. And you know, and what I saw was we had this move up after market yesterday. This is when earnings was announced. We held it all through it closed. Now at the open today, open the pre-market, we tried to lose this, but we kind of hung on. And then at 8 o'clock, we pulled back to this level here, and I thought, okay, we may bounce off the 200, but if this level holds, you know, I would like to get it through this. And there's another level here, you can't see it, it's 27.64. We had a nice window that we could, you know, take a trade in. Now this is a stock I would normally take 500 or 600 shares on, but I wasn't at home, I didn't have everything, so I went in half size. I knew that I was going to use half size. So through pre-market, you know, I was watching it and this level was holding, and we were kind of messing around with VWAP and the 20, but what I liked about it was everything was right there. So right after 9 o'clock, we got a nice volume spike, and it tried to push this 2636 level, and it kind of played around with it. So let me blow this up here. At the open, you know, we were running up, you know, everything was ramping up. So what I wanted to see didn't happen. At the open, I wanted to see a pullback to this, test this level again, and I was going to buy it off of this 2586 or 2588 level. I wasn't going to wait for the opening range breakout or anything. I was just going to buy it. Well, we claimed this level, and then when we opened, it looked very strong. So before we even got to the 2-minute candle to close, I got in at 2670 up here, because I felt, okay, if we don't make it and we close below the VWAP, I'll take it off. But you can see everything was ramping up so good, I felt we could do this. And then as soon as I got in, X did what X does and just jumped around a little bit. Here we jumped around, and then we finally started to make a move. So I took half off up here through 27. So I got some at 2709. I took half off, and I was waiting for the next half for the 2764 level. You know, that was my my plan. But I got the alert that my power was back on, and so I tried to wait to see if we were going to recover on this candle, but we didn't. So I just had to close it out. I wasn't going to put stops in and all of this stuff, because if I did, I would have got stopped out anyway at a lower price. So I did the right thing. I made the right decision and just click it and take the profit. Turned out to be an excellent trade, and this thing actually sold off. It still was a little choppy here, but I don't like to trade X after the first move. Once I nail the first move, I'm done. I'm done with it. So that turned out to be a good trade. Then I got with my old pal AAOI, and my love affair with it is over. I missed this. I got home right as this candle was printing, and I could have gotten it here. I wanted to get it closer to this level, but I didn't take it here, and it ran right up 99.98, almost hit 100. And I've been waiting. If you've been listening to me rant about this stock hitting 100, that's what it was going to do today. I mean, it almost got there, 2 cents away. But I was like, okay, I'm going to be patient. I'm going to wait for the pullback. I want to get in because this thing has a habit of turning very quickly. I didn't want another candle like this to catch me. So I got in. After this candle dipped down through here and got bought back up, I got in. And it looked very good for a while. I thought we were going to push through. We couldn't push through. We pulled back. It held a 20 for a while. Held the VWAP next. And I'm just holding. And this got me excited. I thought we were gearing up to push this. And no. Ended up stopping out. So I was like, okay. You know, I was just, this is my love affair with AAOI is done. I did get another trade later, and it did this, you know, it was pretty much the same thing. Thought we were holding this, got it, it failed, and I just stopped out. And I said my love affair with AAOI is done. It's over. Still holding the swing trade. I'm still expecting a run through 100. Actually had 100, you know, an order out for 100. It didn't hit it. So that would have taken me out of the trade today. Just didn't do it. So I really think this is a magnet. If it doesn't do it, we're going to pull back, and eventually it's going to break it. Possibly after earnings come out next week. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. I'm not really all that excited about it anymore. But we did close at, what was it, 98.65 or 98.71. So we do have a chance, if it opens green tomorrow, to break this. But who knows? We'll see. 2 more days in the week, 2 more days in the month. I'll be glad when this month is over. This has been a very slow month for me day trading. If you've been in the room, you've seen my struggles. It's real. The struggle is real, guys. And that's the real side of day trading. That's the side that you don't see. And it's my mission and my vision to make sure everybody sees the real side of day trading. You know, not the side that people want you to see so that you open your pockets up. The side that you're really going to deal with when you get involved. And then my charge is to help you get through that. Is to tell you what you really need in order to make it. So take these this how to really grow your small day trading account. Please take this seriously. If you're serious about day trading, you might have heard this stuff before. If you have, then you're ahead of most people. But it's a series, and it's going to start out with things that you need to have before you even think about trading. That's where it's going to start. And everybody I work with one-on-one that's just starting out trading, this is where it starts. There's no feel good story, no making you feel good. This is what it's about. This is what you're going to have to do. This is the work you're going to have to put in. And at the end of the day, it's going to be great. As President Trump says, it's going to be great. And it's going to really, really be good. So just sit back and take it all in. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. But like I said, this is not anything, not a sales gimmick. This is telling you the truth. Hey everybody, we're gonna go ahead and get started here with our weekly webinar. I hope you had time to take a break and watch today off. The day closed pretty good. It was pretty interesting to see all of the stocks moving, but it's like it waited to the last hour before it woke up. But hopefully that's a precursor to tomorrow, and things get a little bit better and give us more opportunity than just to open. At least that's what I'm looking forward to anyway. So I've been talking about this for a little bit, starting a series on how to really grow a small trading account. It's really kind of been festering in me because I see all of these guys that are promoting how to grow in a small account, how you can start with a couple $100 and grow it very quickly, but they're not covering all the bases. They're not being truthful. I mean, the average person, the average new trader coming in, there's no way they're going to be able to do that. It's almost impossible. And I don't really like to say things are impossible because I always like to believe that anything is possible. But for one person, yeah, it could be possible. But for the average guy, for everybody, it's just not possible. You can't, it doesn't work that way. And there are things that you're going to run into that nobody's really talking about. And these are the things that I want to address, because I answer a lot of emails from traders all the time who are blinded by this hype. And they ask me, can you do this? Can you do that? You know, there's a reason why I don't promote what I did back in 2015, because that's a different era. That was a different market. Things were so much different, and it was easy. You could throw darts at a board and make money. But you can't do that anymore. And, you know, so I'm like, look at me now. Look at what I'm doing now. You know, don't worry about, or don't think about what I've done in the past, because that's the past. You know, it's about what are you doing now? And, you know, how are you navigating things now? And I want to get everybody on the same page. I want to tell everybody the truth, that this is how it really is. And the truth is, telling people the real deal doesn't sell subscriptions. It doesn't sell classes. You know, telling people what they want to hear does. But I've never been one to do that. Even my parents, even my teachers. I just had a thing about telling people what they wanted to hear. You know, I wanted to do me, and that's it. And that's kind of the type person I am, the personality. But I want to share with everybody the truth and try to keep you from being a negative statistic, you know, and losing the hard-earned money that you do have. So I did kind of an introduction on my weekly recap video, but I'm going to quickly hit these truths that I shared with you. I'm not going to go deep into them, you know, like I did in the video, just to kind of remind you what I was talking about. You know, and here's the number one truth. Your trading success is not going to happen when you want it to. And you got to understand that your success in this industry is a process. And it's going to take time. And spending all your time trying to find a shortcut, trying to find somebody that's going to help you shorten that learning curve, is going to lead you to blowing your account up. So there's really very little chance of finding a shortcut in trading. It's just one of those things that you can't really do. All right, the second truth is that 80% of success, not even just in trading, but in anything you do, is psychology. It's psychological. You know, it's mental. And only 20% of it is strategy. You know, we've all heard the saying that only the strong survive. That's what that is. You know, it's the mental strong, not the physical strong. You know, think about, you know, we know about Michael Jordan, and we know about what's the other guy's name? Everybody's comparing to him now. That plays for the Cavaliers. I can't think of his name now. But if you follow basketball, you know who I'm talking about. You know, these guys are considered the best in the world, best ever. Okay, but there's a lot of athletes that are probably better than them. The problem is physically, and have more talent. But the problem is their mental game is not there. they didn't have the right mindset to get to the next level. And in trading, it's the same way. We've got to have the right mindset to get to where we need to be. So 80% of our success in trading is going to deal with psychology. It's going to deal with our mind. And 20% is going to deal with the strategies that we employ. So step one in the process really is figuring out whether you truly want to do this. And it says a 3-step process, but it's actually 5 steps. But you've got to decide that this is what you want to do. You've got to make that decision. You got to commit to that decision, and then you have to act on it. When you do, you need to know what your model of success looks like. And then once you succeed, you repeat that. And you repeat that for everything that you do. Going forward. You just repeat that process. Okay. This is the third truth. 90%. Oh yeah, thanks, LeBron James. 90% of all self-proclaimed day traders lack the right education. And what you get are, you get a box of puzzle pieces. They dump all of this on you, and every bit of knowledge is a puzzle piece. So you really don't know what success looks like. You don't, because all you have is a box of stuff. It's just like when you buy a training program. You buy a CD, or you buy a class online. Whatever it is, all of that information is good information, but how do you put it together? If you don't see it, how are you going to put it together? That's just like me giving you a 5,000 piece jigsaw puzzle and throw it out there and say, okay, now put this together. Now, eventually, some people are going to put it together. A small percentage of us will have the focus and the mental fortitude to put this thing together. But most of us aren't. Most of us will not even have a process of starting to put these things together. So you've got to know, you've got to see a model of success. You have to see what success looks like. And the education that you get, part of that you have to get success demonstrated to you. You have to be able to see it. It can't be, it can't be somebody telling you what success looks like and telling you what success is. It has to be modeled. So, in order for you to get this picture out of all those puzzle pieces, you're going to have to see this picture first. Because when people put puzzles together, they put it together based on the picture. I don't know of anybody that just throws puzzle pieces down and then just starts trying to find them to go together without looking at the picture. So for us, and I know these are only 7 pieces, so I kind of narrowed it down, and I borrowed this from my psychology workshop. But this is how we look. This is how everything looks to us. We've got all of the education that we received, here, and we've got all of these different pieces, and we don't know how to put them together. We have no model of success. And what I tried to do in the introduction is to get you to see that you are the center of everything. That everything revolves around you. You're not the cornerstone. You're not the base. You're the nucleus. You're the most important part of all of this. And if you're not right, and if you don't get your head right, you're never going to be successful. And that's the point I've tried to reiterate in the first video. Because in the end, this is what you want your trading model to look like. I probably should have done this as an atom, but I think a puzzle makes sense as well. But the psychology, your mindset, is what's going to hold all of this together. Because if your mind isn't right, if you're not right, every time you pick this up, something's going to fall off. If not all of it. It's just going to fall apart. But if you have the mindset and everything is right within you, then this is all going to stay together. And that's the first principle that you guys have to understand in trying to grow a small account. And I don't care if you have a large account. It doesn't matter. This is across the board. If you are not right, you're not going to be successful. And it's just like all of the professional athletes. If their mind isn't right, they're not going to be successful. And I wish I had wrote these guys' names down, but I think Yogi Ferrell is a guy that got called up. He played in the D League, and he got called up to the NBA to play for somebody that was injured, and he was only given a 10-day contract. But he wasn't the most talented. He wasn't the most physically gifted. But he had a strong mind and a strong will. And when he got on the court, he willed himself and his team to do better. So much so that they gave this guy a contract. They kept it. Now he's a full-fledged NBA player. And here's somebody who had the right mindset that came in. And yeah, he had strategy, he had his skill set, and he had his, how he played the game. But it was his mindset, it was his mental game that separated him from everybody else. And that's what's going to separate us from what we do. So if you haven't seen that first segment, it's short. Go back to it and check it out. It's the end of my recap video from this past week. Alright. Now, truth number 4. You have to treat your trading like a small business. There's no way around it. You have to treat it like a small business. You have to establish a business plan, and you have to establish a budget and stick to it. I don't care if it's something you're doing part-time. It has to be a part-time business. Now, if you're doing this for a hobby, then yeah, hobbies cost money. You typically don't make money from hobbies. So if you treat this like a hobby, just treat it like anything else. You're not going to make money off of it. Drag racing was my hobby. It cost me more money than I'll ever win, because I'm not doing it as a professional. I'm doing it as a hobby. And I I started adding up all the money I spent one year, and I quit, because if I had continued, I probably would have quit racing and wouldn't have enjoyed my hobby. But if you treat this trading like a hobby, you're gonna lose all your money. You're just gonna keep feeding it. And if you're happy doing it, hey, great. That's great. But just don't look to eventually make a living out of this or supplement your income out of this, because if you put hobby effort into it, you're going to get hobby results. And we're going to talk about the trading plan today. That's what we're going to focus on today. And then truth number 5, you have to be ready to take full responsibility for whatever happens with your trading. I don't care if the internet goes down. I don't care if the platform goes bad. I don't care if your computer goes out. It doesn't matter. You can't blame your success or your failure on all of these things, because to be a trader, you have to accept the risk. You have to say, okay, I'm cool with this risk. And you take responsibility for it. Like this morning is a good example. I could have just blown up and started throwing stuff and just went ballistic when I'm sitting here at 7:20 and I hear this loud bang outside and all of the lights go out. Transformer blew. And I know it's going to take a couple hours to get it fixed. So I had a choice. I could blame Mother Nature, and I could blame all of the storms that we've had. I could blame anything. But I took responsibility for it. I have a community now that I'm responsible for. I can't blame something that happened on me not being able to handle, my responsibility. So our trading has to be the same way. Whatever happens, we have to be responsible for, and we have to deal with it. And if you're not willing to do that, my honest opinion is you need to quit right now before you lose any more money. Unless you're just doing this for a hobby and you enjoy doing it and you don't mind giving money to the market every day, then that's fine. But if not, you have to be ready to take responsibility for whatever happens. So, if you're ready to accept these 5 truths, then you're ready to take the next step, because you have to accept this. You really have to accept it as law. Whether it's the way I said it, it could be somebody else could present it in a different way. But whatever the case is, you have to accept that in order to move forward. So hopefully everybody's willing to accept it and you're ready to take this to the next level. So we don't need that right now. All right, so first question you want to know, you want to ask yourself, and I get this all the time, and this is the biggest question. How much money do I need to start with? In order to be successful, to give myself a fighting chance, how much money do I need to start with? And most of the time, it's what's the least amount I can start with. Alright, and some people, they go by whatever their broker minimum is. Sure Trader, for instance, $500 minimum for a margin account. Trade King, no account minimum for a cash account. But if you want a margin account, $2,000 is the minimum. TD Ameritrade is the same. You can open up a cash account, no minimum, and $2K for a margin account. IB, you got to have 10K. Lightspeed, you got to have 25K if you want to use their main platform. 10K to use the web-based platform. You know, and I just picked these out of the blue, but you can look at your broker and look at what their minimums are. But that's not the true minimum that you need in order to be successful. And based on my experience and all of the traders that I've worked with, I recommend no less than I recommend to have $2,500 to deposit into your broker account, so that you start with at least $2,500. Now, I started with 15. You see how difficult it is. I got 2 emails already this afternoon from people who were frustrated because they couldn't trade like they wanted to because these stocks moved after 3:30 and they had to get out, and they missed a lot of the big trade. You know, but that's, you got to accept that. But in order to get past that, you want to make sure you have enough into your brokerage account, because this affects you negatively. When you complain about this, it starts to affect you negatively, and then you start doing things that you shouldn't do, and you end up hurting your account more. But as far as having money to deposit into your account, I recommend $2,500, but no less than $1,500. You know, anything less is going to be very, very difficult. Now, if you're trading these small caps, you know, $3 to $5 stocks or $1 to $5 stocks, then yeah, you can probably get away with $1,000 or something like that. But those stocks are very tricky and highly manipulated. So to me, it's easy to lose money on those. That's why I tend to stay away from them. But the other thing is, you're going to need money for your education and your tools. Now, yeah, there's free education out there. A lot of the larger communities are putting out free basic classes. I know Bulls on Wall Street has some. Investors Underground has some. You know, they realize there's a lot of information out there, the basic information that's just out there on the internet. And they wanted to put, you know, whereas they used to charge for these classes, they're making them free. You know, yeah, they're trying to funnel people in, but you need to take advantage of that. If you have not had any formal training or any organized training, if you've just been watching this video, that video, this video, that video, all of this bits of information in your head is like all of these puzzle pieces thrown out on the ground, and you have no picture or no model of what success looks like to even get started. And that, if you're frustrated, that's probably where that frustration is coming from. So what you need to do is to find one of these, and you can go on, well, I know on YouTube, Investors Underground has theirs right there. It's an 8-class thing, and it's basic information. That's the person that I really started with that kind of helped me start putting pieces together. But honestly, I spent over $2,000 on those videos. This free class, all I needed was this free class. And had they had this free class when I started, I would have taken it. But these free videos gives you all the basic information you need. Now, can you trade once you finish? No. You can't trade once you finish that, because this is your basic information. This is just the fundamentals. And this is what was giving people false sense of security and false hope is that once you take these basic classes, you can get out and trade and start making money. But you're going to find out here in the next couple of weeks that there are things that you're going to have to learn above what they teach you in these classes. There are things that you're going to have to focus on and work on in order to get to the next level, in order to start being consistent. Because like I always say, you can't make $100 a day consistently if you can't make $50 a day. You can't make $200 a day unless you learn how to make $50 a day first, then $100 a day, and then $200. You know, everybody that's followed that process and is taking their time has built a foundation that they can always go back to when things get out of hand. If you start to move too fast, it's always a foundation that you come back to. But the basic thing is you want to have enough money set aside for your education. And you got these free classes, so you don't have to have money for that. Then you have to look at, once you finish that, what tools are you going to use? I highly recommend being a part of a community. You know, not just because I have one. There's a lot out there. You find one that works for you. You find one that you fit in. You know, and not because they're promising you these miraculous results. It's not about that. My focus in my community is educating you and helping you become a profitable trader, that you don't need anything, that you're in the room because you enjoy the company, you enjoy chatting with the other traders, and you're in a community where people are trading the same thing you're trading, and they have the like mindset. You know, that's what you're looking for in a community, and you have to find the right one. You know, I've got a lot of people who came in for a month and didn't stay. I have people that stayed a week or 2 or 3 days and just left. You know, for whatever reason or another. If this is not what they want, if this doesn't meet their needs, then that's fine. You know, I'm not going to take it personally because that's what I did. I went from this room to that room to this room till I found one that I felt comfortable in. And, you know, eventually you grow out of that. You get to a point where your values and your community's values don't mix anymore, and you move on. And that's the cycle. So just keep those things in mind, that you want to have the money for your account, plus you need to have money for your education and your tools. You got to have a computer. I mean, I had somebody buy a mentor session with me that didn't even have a computer. I can't teach you how to trade online if you don't have a computer. You know, they didn't have the money. They put money in a brokerage account, but they didn't have a computer, you know, to trade with. So these are things that you want to make sure you think about, and that's where the business plan comes into play. You know, that's why building a business plan is the very first thing you need to do. You know, once you have made a decision that you want to be a trader, that you're going to commit to it 120%. But let me back up. I'm not saying quit your job, because that's a big mistake. You don't, unless you have a couple $100,000 in the bank, don't quit your job. Okay? You can commit to this 120% and still keep your full-time job. And you're going to need to, because as you learn, you're going to be losing money. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to lose a lot of money, but you will lose some money. You will go out and do something, for the lack of a better word, stupid, and it's going to cost you. And you're going to need to eventually fund your account again. So you need a job. You need a revenue source. With me, what I did was I had my initial $1,500 check. That disappeared pretty quick. So I had to figure out, how can I feed my account while I'm learning? And unfortunately, I wasn't doing it the right way, so I was losing money too fast. And I looked at, okay, I played the lottery, so I figured out how much money I spent a week playing the lottery. I spent $150 a week playing the lottery. So I stopped playing the lottery and put that $250 up. I opened up an account just for trading, because when I funded SureTrader, I didn't want it, I was believing all of the hype, so I didn't want my account compromised. So I opened up a separate bank account with a separate debit/credit card, so that I could fund my account. And so when I made money, or I saved money, I deposited into that account. So when it came time for me to have to add more money, I did. And you want to make sure that you have a plan in place to fund your trading. And that, again, that's where the business plan comes in, because you're going to have that in place by following this. Okay, now these are questions I've asked people in my classes before. When you start a business, would you start a business if you had no idea what the cash flow was going to be? You had no idea how much money you were going to make. Would you start a business if you had very little experience or training compared to your competition? Would you go into a business where your competition was well funded, capitalized, and you had limited capital? And would you start a business without a business plan? Well, guys, this is exactly what we're doing. This is exactly what everybody's doing that gets into trading. They think, let's take a class, let's put money in the brokerage account, and let's start trading. They have no established plan. So your business plan is going to come up with targets on what your cash flow should be, or you want it to be. It has to be realistic. This is going to address what type of experience and training you're going to need, and the capital. So you've got to, if you ask these questions, this should help you understand that why you need a business plan. All right, so learning to trade stocks is no different than learning any other profession. You've got to develop the same level of skill and expertise as any other professional, albeit a doctor, lawyer, if you're a plumber, if you're an auto tech, you've got to develop that same level of skill and expertise. And again, you have to be 120% committed to it. Whatever time you allot for your trading, you give it 120%. If it's two hours a day, then those 2 hours you need to be focused 120% on your trading. If you can't do that, you might as well stop. You might as well quit. Quit now, save your money, or just change your mindset and say, hey, I'm doing this for I'm doing it as a hobby. Okay, if you want to trade on your own with your money and you're trading it for profit, then you have to look at trading as your business. You have to. There's really no way around it. So what's the first thing you need to do this week? What you need to do, hopefully you've already got your self-assessment out of the way. If you haven't done that, you got to go back and do that. You can't skip these steps. If you do, it's not going to work for you. So you want to determine what your skill level is as a trader right now. What education have you had? If you haven't had any formal education, then you need to get it. It's just that simple. And I told you, there are free resources out there, but make sure you get a complete program. Not just one 30, 45-minute video teaching you how to trade. You know, these people have, like using Investors Underground, they have eight video series. And I think all the videos are like 2 hours long. I actually watched them as he was putting them out. And they're very good. And students I worked with in the past that had no education, that's where I steered them. You know, that didn't want to invest. But I do have some students that, you know, they're not independent learners. They need direct instruction. So if that's what you need, then you need to look for a mentor or look for somebody that offers one-on-one instruction. You know, and I have some students that I do one-on-one instruction with, and I'm teaching them the basics of trading. But you've got to have that education. If you don't, go back and get it. You need that foundation so that you can understand what we're talking about when we take you to the next level. You want to think about, have you traded live yet? Have you tried trading live and blown up? Or have you traded in a simulator? You know, I made a mistake. I did not trade in a simulator when I first started trading. I traded live. And if you have traded live or in a simulator, how long have you been doing it? You know, think about how long. You know, how often do you do it? Are you profitable? Are you profitable in the simulator? Or have you been profitable in your live account? Chances are no. How much are you trading in capital, in leverage? You know, what are you working with? What are you trading? Are you trading stocks? Are you trading futures? Are you trading options? You know, I always recommend new traders right out of the gate trading stocks. You know, options is a quicker way to lose your money when you don't know what you're doing. So you got to understand and develop a process before you move on and start trading instruments that are a little bit more riskier. All right, so what you need to do this week is, again, you know, everything that we talked about, determine what style of trading do you want to do. What do you like the best? Day trading or swing trading? You know, or a combination of both. How do you want to do it? How do you want to plan it out? What setups do you want to trade? What setups do you like? You have to decide those, and you need to stick to them. You know, and if you don't have setups you like, you know, this is part of the learning phase. There's no reason for you to be trading live right now if you don't understand what setups you want to take. You know, what's your system for risk management? How are you going to manage your risk? Are you going to use a simple max loss like I did when I started trading with $1,500? My max loss per trade was $50. You know, I still use a max loss per trade, but I make sure that my position size gives me enough room to allow the trade to work. But that's a system that I have, and it works good for small accounts. What tools or what software are you going to utilize? And you got to lay that out, because what's going to happen is you're going to have to come together. You're going to have to put a budget together. And you're going to have to figure out, how much is this trading going to cost me a month? And we're going to look at putting a budget together and all of that next week, so that we know exactly how much we're going to need to have before we get started. All of this has to be done before you even think about placing a trade. Really, before you even think about putting money in a broker account, you've got to have all of this in place. And this is where everybody gets messed up. This is where I kind of shy away from a lot of these programs that have you trading in a week, or trading in a simulator in 2 weeks, or whatever, because it's not feasible. This is the thing that you need to go through first before you even start taking a trade. And if you've been trading and you haven't been trading profitable, and you're missing some of these things that I've asked you about, you need to stop and get what you need. Because as long as you keep trading, yeah, you're going to get lucky. Just like the guy at the casino will get lucky every now and then and win a hand. You'll get lucky and win a trade here and there. But overall, you're going to be red. And the key is, whenever you do get to the simulator, it has to be identical to what you be trading in real life. If you're only going to trade, if you only have $2,000 and you're going to have $6,000 buying power, then that's all you need to practice with in the simulator. Because if you get in the simulator and you're practicing with 1,000 shares and you can only trade 100, it's going to be big. It's going to be really different. You're going to frustrate yourself, because instead of making $1,000, you're going to make 100, and then you're going to start feeling like, I'm doing something wrong, and you're going to lose it. So you have to, when you practice, make sure, if you're trading in the simulator now, make sure that you're only using the size that you would be using when you go live. Because if you do two different things, it's going to hurt you. All right, so I think you guys have enough to think about. I'm not throwing a whole lot of stuff at you one at a time. Right now, for this week, you want to look at finding these pieces so that you can put your business plan together. So next week, I'll give you a template, and you'll be able to fill out that business plan using that template. And then we're going to do a budget. And then we're going to start looking at, actually managing these trades and how to manage yourself, when you're trading. That's going to help you grow your account. But before you get to any of that stuff, this is the background. This is what has to be done. And until I did these things, until I stopped what I was doing and I did these, I think, if I remember correctly, I had to refund my account 5 times. And I didn't lose a lot of money because I wasn't investing a lot of money in it. But I had to refund it like 5 times. And then, thankfully my teacher mind came in and I knew exactly what I needed to do. I was trading without a business plan. I had no plan to what I was doing. I had no rhyme or reason to anything what I was doing. I was chasing setups. I was trying to trade what everybody else was trading. And these setups didn't work for me. I couldn't see them. I wasn't comfortable with them. The risk the risk parameters for these trades weren't working for me. So I had to I had to stop, put it all together on paper, lay out my plan, and then I realized what I was missing, and then I went and took care of that. And once I took care of everything that I was missing, that I was falling short on, then I started trading, and it was like night and day. So that's what I want you guys to do this week. And I promise you, if you guys give it 120% effort, if you follow what I'm going over, if you be honest with yourself when you ask yourself these questions, when we get through this, you're going to be a different trader, and you're going to look at the market and you're going to approach it and attack it differently. And it's going to be in a way that's going to give you the best opportunity to make money. Now, is it going to work for everybody? No, because not everybody is going to be able to implement it. But if you put the effort in and you follow it, you're going to have the foundation you need to be successful. No doubt about it. All right, so does anybody have any questions or any comments?